On September 2025, in the quiet suburbs of Long Island, U.S. agents executed an operation that stripped away the illusion of safety. They did not enter a simple residence. They uncovered a scene that looked more like the front line of a drug cartel's war zone. The victory achieved that day was decisive, revealing exactly how deeply cartel-backed networks had embedded the industrial machinery of death into American communities. This was not a small-time drug deal. This was a sophisticated, industrial-scale narcotics production hub, turning an ordinary residential street into ground zero for potential mass casualty. The scope of the threat was exposed, but the speed and precision of the U.S. response left no doubt about who maintains ultimate control. The stakes were immediate and undeniable, creating a fierce anticipation of the successful outcome that was about to unfold. Agents prepared to breach a suburban home that was, in reality, a fortress where poison was manufactured, packaged, and defended. The DEA had consistently warned the public about the evolving reach of cartel influence, but this raid made that threat terrifyingly close and real. The cartels mistakenly believed that quiet suburban enclaves offered sanctuary, but this operation confirmed that U.S. agencies can and will reach them anywhere. The enemy had invested heavily in this domestic infrastructure, which was a clear sign of an organized network with significant capital, logistics, and backing from major groups like the Sinaloa Cartel and its rivals. The U.S. action was not just against drugs, it was a direct blow designed to dismantle the very machinery of distribution that cartels were building inside U.S. borders. The sheer power of the adversary's chosen weapon, fentanyl, necessitated extreme caution and detailed planning. Fentanyl's lethal dose is so tiny, it is measured in milligrams, an amount so minute it can balance on the tip of a pencil. A small puff of airborne powder has the power to incapacitate or kill. This meant agents faced a dual threat: the armed individuals inside and the invisible, deadly powder coating the air and surfaces. The raid was carried out with meticulous planning and protective gear, guaranteeing the safety of the agents and confirming the high level of American competence and order, which stands in stark contrast to the enemy's chaos. When the operation concluded, the decisive victory was displayed for all to see. The total seizure was a staggering cache of drugs and weapons, headlined by fentanyl so deadly it held the potential to wipe out 42,000 lives. This number is not an estimate. It is a precise measure of the death agents prevented. They did not simply stop a pipeline of drugs. They intercepted the potential deaths of entire communities, entire school districts.
Before we get to that, I need your help. I'm trying to hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I need your help. So I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe and help me out.
This was a raw interception of catastrophe, a stunning victory achieved by skilled, determined agents. The relief loop was triggered. Tension built by the threat of mass casualty was instantly resolved by the success of the raid. The vulnerability of the cartel's domestic operation was exposed through the sheer scale of the equipment found. Agents seized humming pill press machines, bulk packaging materials, and everything required to push poison into society. Every seized pill press is one less factory that can produce tomorrow's fatalities. Alongside the fentanyl, they confiscated large quantities of cocaine, methamphetamine, heroin, and marijuana, all packaged, portioned, and ready for immediate, wide-scale distribution. This collection of equipment and narcotics confirmed that the house was a complete, industrial-level laboratory, placed right in the middle of a U.S. neighborhood. The clearest sign of cartel weakness and deceit was the presence of counterfeit pills. These tablets were pressed to look exactly like legitimate pharmaceuticals such as oxycodone, Xanax, or Adderall. The cartels deliberately designed this product to trick unsuspecting users, maximizing their profit margins by cutting other drugs with cheaper, lethal fentanyl. This exposed the profound humiliation of the adversary. Their product was not a desirable commodity, but a malicious deceit. For someone reaching for simple relief, these pills were not medicine. They were a deadly roulette wheel, with the odds fatally stacked against the user. A fraction too much fentanyl, invisible to the naked eye, means instant respiratory collapse. Every single counterfeit pill in that house was a bullet in disguise. Adding to the adversary's exposed battlefield mindset was the cache of weapons found alongside the narcotics. Agents did not just seize unregistered firearms, they found specialized ammunition, dragon's breath rounds. These are not normal bullets. They ignite magnesium shards on impact, creating a spray of fire that can burn through metal, set structures ablaze, and cause catastrophic damage. The discovery of such specialized, destructive ammunition in a residential neighborhood was a clear declaration of the kind of warfare cartels are prepared to wage on American soil. But the operation decisively shattered their plan. This fortress, armed for conflict, was taken with dominant U.S. action, showcasing the enemy's complete failure to secure their position. The U.S. response ensured this failure was amplified, weaponizing shame to inflict maximum psychological damage on the cartel networks. Publicly displaying the massive haul transformed the silent confiscation into a spectacle where humiliation was forged. This is strategic, psychological warfare. For the cartels, reputation is survival currency, and having their supposedly untouchable shipments splashed across news feeds strips away the myth of invincibility they worked so hard to cultivate. Law enforcement deliberately crafted this narrative. Footage of shrink-wrapped bundles and U.S. agents standing tall over the mountain of failed product directly contradicts the cartel narrative of absolute dominance. This public humiliation immediately sparked internal chaos and exposed the deep weakness in the cartel's command structure. Cartel associates, who rely on the belief that their organization is too ruthless and too sophisticated to be challenged, watched that image and saw their leadership fail. This humiliation works like acid, eating from the inside. Lower-ranking members start to whisper, how did U.S. agencies find this operation? Who betrayed the network? Once the thought of betrayal takes root, paranoia replaces cohesion, and suspicion becomes as damaging as the drugs lost. Every failed shipment now looks less like simple bad luck and more like sabotage, fracturing trust between suppliers, transporters, and distributors. This decisive U.S. action created immediate chaos in the adversary's operations, fulfilling the scarcity overload loop by pitting adversary disorder against U.S. order. The loss cut the cartel suppliers multiple ways, cementing their failure. The financial damage alone was immense. Tens of millions of dollars worth of product obliterated in a single seizure.
Before we get to that, I need your help. I'm trying to hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I need your help. So I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe and help me out.
Worse than the financial blow was the permanent reputational scar. Within trafficking circles, word travels fast. Rivals mock, partners question reliability, and subordinates wonder if leadership is losing its vital edge. The humiliation reverberated across borders, amplified by official statements that highlighted the bust as a decisive strike. The spectacle also weakened the cartel's recruitment efforts. When a young recruit, promised wealth and protection, sees news anchors describing the seizure of enough fentanyl to kill millions, the aspirational allure of the criminal life instantly curdles. The televised display of failure reframed the cartel lifestyle from a power fantasy to a guaranteed downfall. Every televised bust, therefore, acts as a powerful recruiting commercial for law enforcement, demonstrating that crime does not pay. This success validated the urgency of the DEA's global surge against cartel networks. The discovery in Long Island connects directly to international trafficking chains, where raw fentanyl often originates in clandestine labs overseas. By intercepting equipment and drugs domestically, agents cut off not just the immediate supply, but also the demand for future shipments, creating small, intermittent victories before the total resolution of the conflict. The bust was immediately leveraged as fuel for further, expanded operations. Each spectacular, humiliating cartel failure justifies larger budgets, expanded surveillance, and closer international cooperation, strengthening the U.S. position. The humiliation becomes cyclical. Cartels lose face, American agencies gain momentum, leading to more targeted strikes and, inevitably, more public displays of dominance. This emphasizes the ritualistic, recurring nature of these raids and seizures. The psychological message of this victory was surgical and effective on a global scale. The public exposure told every node in the cartel's vast network, from Chinese chemical suppliers providing precursors, to shell company operators laundering money, to corrupt officials providing safe passage, that the supply chain is no longer secure. Humiliation metastasized outward, weakening the invisible scaffolding the cartels rely on. The message was clear. No matter how hidden the route, no matter how trusted the courier, American agencies can and will pry it open. This psychological blow undermined cartel bravado and strengthened the hand of anyone inside the networks considering defection. Informants emerged not out of any moral conviction, but out of cold calculation. Better to deal with U.S. law enforcement than remain loyal to bosses who cannot even protect a flagship shipment. Humiliation breeds defection, further destabilizing the entire enemy enterprise. The sheer lethality of fentanyl amplified the humiliation. Authorities stressed the number of potential deaths prevented, painting cartel leaders not as cunning businessmen, but as reckless mass murderers. This weight shriveled their underground prestige. The humiliation also struck a direct blow to cartel culture, which trades heavily on machismo, swagger, and the image of being untouchable warriors. A gymnasium filled with seized fentanyl bricks is the photographic evidence of their defeat. It punctures the myth of dominance, replacing swagger with profound shame. The Long Island seizure proved to cartels that U.S. geography offers them no sanctuary. The humiliation was not just the financial loss. It was the loss of the illusion that certain corridors within the United States were safe from enforcement action. Once that illusion of safety dies, operations slow down, costs rise, and trust completely evaporates. For the public, this spectacle served a dual purpose. It provided reassurance that U.S. agencies are fighting back and winning, but it also conveyed the absolute urgency of the crisis, proving the threat is immense and deeply woven into the geography of ordinary life. This operation was a decisive victory, but also a stark warning. What agents stopped was a catastrophe in waiting, underscoring the razor-thin line that exists between normal life and absolute tragedy. This near miss serves as a powerful reminder of what could have been lost had the U.S. response been anything less than dominant. The operation in September 2025 will be remembered for how it stripped away all illusions. It showed the machinery of death cartels are willing to plant in our backyards. The victory was a reprieve, a temporary shield against a crisis that never sleeps. The triumph is that determined agents prevented a disaster, aligning the audience's identity with U.S. competence and order. The enemy networks are relentless and adaptable, but the U.S. response must be and is dominant. In the end, this battle crystallizes the truth. Humiliation is not collateral damage, it is the entire point. Every public seizure is a calculated strike against the cartel's psychology. The Long Island Haul proved that even the most protected shipments can be cracked open and broadcast worldwide. For cartels, this public defeat is worse than the financial loss, because it is a reputational scar that erodes loyalty, sparks paranoia, and spreads weakness across their entire network. For the world watching, it is a reminder that the myth of cartel invincibility can be shattered, not with silence, but with the spectacle of U.S. dominance. The victory disrupts, destabilizes, and exposes the enemy at every turn. The ongoing effort to dismantle supply chains, attack money laundering, and root out corruption is the new challenge, the open cycle that guarantees the fight will continue. While greed keeps the cartels alive, humiliation forces them to constantly rethink their operations, ensuring that the empire built on poison will continue to bleed. Every interruption matters, and every humiliation is a weapon.